Hey everyone, I am Sudhir Kiran, a leader driving change in the field of education. Welcome to Leadership in Education, a series that shines a spotlight on the remarkable individuals who are shaping the future of education through their leadership.
Let's make this a little fun. Okay.
Sure.
I'd like to know a little bit about you when you were a student.
As a student,
No, 1 second. I've not started the question. I'm going to ask you a few questions and I want you to answer them. Answer what comes to your mind first, okay? First question. What was your favorite subject in school?
history in middle school and English when I was in high school.
Okay. If you could go back and relive one school trip,
Okay.
which would it be?
I think it was a school trip which took us to Madikeri
Okay. Why?
because that gave me an opportunity to not have regular classes, and
Okay.
so my school life I really didn't like going to school, honestly.
Right. Okay.
I didn't really enjoy my school life.
Okay.
I was always very tense of being pulled up for not doing my maths homework properly or not getting
Wow.
the science thing right. So
Wow.
I was never excited about going to school. I think I was excited when I was in second, third standard, but
Okay.
once I, hit that age of beyond sixth, I didn't really enjoy
You
it.
didn't really
I was
enjoy
very anxious, tense all the way.
Okay. If you could create a new school subject, what would it be and why?
I think that the new school subject would be to have a subject which would be to show videos so that kids can laugh, and it should not be videos which result in bullying or harming anybody.
Okay.
But it should be just good, clean fun where young people can learn to laugh at themselves and at everybody else.
What is the most outrageous excuse you've ever used to get out of doing homework?
Doing homework, right? The most outrageous excuse was that we were traveling and I was having the notebook and we were returning from, place in a train and it fell out of the train window.
Yeah. Nice. If you could add one ridiculous rule to the school, what would it be? To a school, what would it
Latecomers will not be punished.
be? Interesting. Okay. Okay.
And bunking class will be rewarded.
Rewarded. Jesus. Okay. Okay. I'd love to be in that school. I'd like to know, where did it all begin for you? What was that moment, in your childhood that felt like this is the changing moment for me?
I told him I didn't want to do dentistry and I want to take up law. And he said, law? What are you going to do with law? Right? Like, what do you know about law? Then I said, no, maybe then psychology because I want to get into HR and get into management.
Wow.
Going back to the question when you asked me where it all began, I started looking at it like if they're young people like me, and I didn't know at that point of time I want to be a career counselor. But I think that's when I started thinking about that there's more to life than just following in your parents' footsteps. There's more to life than just taking what's easily available for you, what you see around you. Right.
Right.
So I think that was the inflection point which started making me take the road less traveled in life and try and, see what else is there.
It's so nice that you say that because I've known you for some time now. And, you have that interest to learn about another person. You have this whole thing of asking questions. You're trying to figure out how a person is, how their personality is. That's selfless. And there's one thing that you were saying that you took the road less traveled now. So do you think everyone can do that?
Sudhir, that's a great question, right? And I think that if you had asked me this question, let's say a decade ago, I would have said, yes, of course, everybody can take the road less travel and go after their passion and make a career for themselves.
Right.
Organizations want you to pep up the employees, right? Make them feel more positive towards what's happening in the workplace so that they're giving their heart and everything, right? So for many a year, I used to think and believe that whenever I used to individually coach people and tell them that. However, due to the circumstances of life taking me into working with affordable private schools, government schools, I realized that it's easy to say that.
Right.
It's kind of like a situation where there's this famous visual that all of us might have seen on the internet, where there is a person conducting a test, right? And the test is to climb the tree. And the participating students are the following: a fish in a bowl, a giraffe, a monkey, a dog, right? So you have different animals, right? So if I'm going to say that the road less traveled is to climb the tree, are all of them equipped to take that road?
Right.
Not necessarily, right? So we have structural challenges, not just in India, but across the world. If you come from a certain background, certain family background, you're already at a disadvantage because the skills that get built naturally for somebody coming from a privileged background, that does not happen naturally for a person coming from a socioeconomically challenged background, whether it's caste, whether it is years of poverty. So it's quite difficult to get the basic education itself, right?
Yeah.
So it's definitely a challenge. So I would say that it's not always possible for somebody to take the road less traveled and be successful, but it is possible if that particular individual who comes from a challenged background, economically, socioeconomically challenged background, is interested in pursuing a career. There might be people who are from backgrounds, socioeconomically challenged backgrounds, who have made it. But we don't really know how much of a natural support they had to take that road less travel. I think it's important for affordable private schools to be able to provide standard support measures for the entire class. Let's say if these students are spread across different grades, there are programs that you can plug in which are specifically meant to help build them holistically to each grade, right? And if it's happening at Ashoka Shishu Vihar, it can happen at affordable private schools of a similar nature across Bangalore. It can happen across India also. Everybody's talking about how do we scale this? I think the problems began with the fact that we were looking to scale, right? The education system that we have in India is a part of the colonial era, right? Why did UK and these other countries which took over the countries and colonized them, why did they start these education systems? They started it to feed their industrial production sectors, right? It was to feed the factory system. Our education system basically brought out people who were standardized, who knew this basic skill sets. They could go into streams and go fit into different areas, right? To be able to help run these businesses, right? And usually based on where you came from, you got stuck in a certain kind of a profile or a job role. So today when we are saying let's scale these solutions to holistically develop children, we're forgetting that each child is unique and we need a measure of different enablers. Some are group enablers, some are small group enablers. Not everybody might have a mind for science. It makes sense to give them exposure to science, but in our quest to push people into science to say that this is going to give you a better career, we can't take away the fact that some children might not be equipped to pursue a career in science. Absolutely. They might not be interested in it, right? So I think it's important, apart from having large group interventions, it's also important to, within the classroom, have specific interventions which are aligned to their potential. We know today through research on social emotional learning and
when they go out, when they socialize in their circles, it's always trending according to situations. I want these children to know what that is and then add value to those conversations. And I'm trying to get these interventions to the school where we prep them so well that they're prepared for the world outside. But it may not really happen at a certain cost. So I'm trying to see how to keep the cost affordable but still have the best education possible.
When we talk to people of significant position and we ask of them to support, it's like a lot of times policymakers give excuse, right? This is a challenge everybody faces. But Sudhir, when you are talking about the challenge, you're thinking about one student at a time, you're thinking about one class at a time, you're thinking about your school. When you're asking somebody to support, you're asking for support from this school. Now, we don't know if there are other schools who have come to the very same people and asked for support, right?
Right.
But for people to take a step back and say, categorically, yes, we can help you, we will help you in whatever possible way we can, is commendable, it's authentic. But if they're going to take a step back or two steps back and say, hey, this is a problem a lot of schools face. So I feel it's almost as if saying that we understand you're doing good work, we don't want to help you. So I think it's important for us to take ownership and see what can I do now with the time, resources I have. What can I do to help this school? Right? Can I help 5 schools? Do I have a skill which I can take? Can I bring other people who have a skill like me? Right?
So, Shravan, I want to talk to you a little bit about inclusivity. How is it important, one, and how do you think, sort of this fostering of inclusivity can happen?
So let's take it thread by thread. So the first thread would be to look at it and say that let's keep religion, caste, everything out of the classroom and the education spaces. Let's not address it. It would be to say that this is, some people would say it's like an ostrich putting its head in the sand.
Right.
There is like a domino effect on it. And of course, there are various strong points of views on how this would also be a wise decision. So I think there are various people doing different, having adopted different approaches. So one would be where people are saying we won't address it at all. We're going to keep this a sanctified space and not get into that. I personally think that would be unwise because I think it's important for us to address the elephant in the room and address the fact that today we have young people who are struggling to access opportunities, access a better quality of life because of where they come from. There needs to be a lot more interaction of the affordable private schools in that 5-10 kilometer radius where there is a certain comfort built, even if the community is not right now sending students in who are from minority communities into your school. They need to know that the management of the school itself is fostering inclusivity. So I think internal branding, external branding, conscious awareness of dialogues with teachers and parents to also be able to slowly, incrementally call out biases and have conversations.
Absolutely.
It's too much to ask of schools of your size and constraints, financial and otherwise, to accelerate the process of inclusivity. It needs to be like a timely injection based on a mix of design and circumstances.
Right.
So that, incrementally the schools can, ensure that inclusivity is there to stay in a sustainable manner.
And I think that's a very important point you put. So I just wanted to understand where you are now and where you want to head to, right? I mean, do you have a personal project that you want to get to, or do you want to start something on your own? I'd just like to know what you think and what you want to be in the next few years. What do you want to do? In what system do you want to contribute?
I think one of my intentions is to see if I can bring a group of well-aligned, small-sized, affordable private schools and colleges, because the big guys take care of their own in any case.
Right.
I've always believed that it's important to see how we can be there for the underdog, if I can say so, or the little guy or the little girl. I think the second space for me, which I am looking to really see how I can, further incrementally contribute, is the career ecosystem space, where I believe that as a career coach, working with individuals in the ecosystem, whether it is for profit or not for profit, is to really contribute to aggregate volunteering organizations in this space, where young people who come from privileged families are able to find bridge programs where they're working with young people who are in affordable private schools and that ecosystem.
Very nice.
So that inclusivity, class inclusivity is, also established. I think the third aspect would be to see how, as an open space, I would like to reimagine what I'm doing, so that there comes a point where I can exit my work as a career coach, doing career coaching in a way that we can democratize the information, which is career information, livelihood information, upskilling, which is an information gap, right?
Yeah.
So today, the kids who are not privileged get to this information very late. So they're not able to pick it up in time to get into a particular spot.
Yeah.
Whereas a kid in grade 5 from a privileged family is able to start preparing for a career, for a college overseas, 6 years of preparation to build your career portfolio. So I think what I would want to do is reimagine and see how I could work with multiple stakeholders to make my job redundant. If we're able to democratize this information of knowledge, skills, what it takes to succeed in a career, get into that field, I think we'll have a world where everybody has access to opportunities.
Good. I'm wishing you all the best, and I hope you succeed in all of these ventures. So, Shravan, really, the thing is that you've helped our school so much, right? And I'm really thankful for that. You've been with us through this journey, and from when Slam Out Loud began, and then Thicketives came in and Teach for India. That's great. Yeah, I think you've added a lot of value to our school. I really want to continue doing this, and you should be there with us. Just want to know what do you think about this whole government sort of intervention at the school? Do you think it's a good intervention?
So I think there is a challenge when we speak about the government because we do not necessarily know the actual agenda of the government when the government says that we want to get involved in a particular way at the school level.
Right.
So for example, when the government says that we will set control on fees, the government does not really contextualize different sets of schools with how they want to set the fees here.
Yeah.
Like how do you differentiate between an affordable private school which has which has its own premises versus the one which is paying rent?
Yeah.
How do you differentiate between a school which is ensuring that there's at least 20 square foot space for each student in a classroom?
Yeah, it's so difficult, isn't it?
And as compared to another school which might be in your vicinity, which is not keeping it spacious, they are cramping in students but charging half of your fees. And saying we are doing this to sustain.
Yeah, you know what the thing is, sorry to interrupt, but so so many people have come to our school, and they've seen how our classroom strength ratio is, say 15 to 18 is to 1, and the classrooms are quite spacious for these children, and they've validated this about how we are not cramping children into one classroom and kind of doing what we do for them. And there are many schools out there that cramp 60-70 is to 1 ratio. I mean, that's crazy, isn't it? I just can't imagine how these children will feel.
Sudhir, I also think that just going a little back to what you were talking about, the kind of help that I or other people who have kind of given to Ashoka Shishu Vihar. I remember when I was young, one of my mentors told me, Shravan, if you don't budge, don't expect somebody to push you. Right?
Yeah.
So I think it's important to also see why schools like yours are getting the traction and support from individuals like me. So I think it's important for us to also look at the evolution of Ashoka Shishu Vihar, over the span of time. Right. It was started by a change maker like Banshankarama, who sowed the seeds for the school to move from a house to move into a locality where the land, the building, the classroom, everything was put together by the community.
Correct.
So essential, this was like a really model community school years ago when it started. Right?
Yeah.
And then along the way, there were well-meaning individuals, somebody like Kalyanamma who's responsible, Maklakuta, which is basically a BBMP leased land, but available for multiple schools like you to access the land. I'm sure since her time overlapped with Banshankarama, she was like a mother figure and they worked together. And there is enough information out there in the local neighborhood on how they really shaped the education ecosystem by developing teachers and so many awards. But more importantly, they never really worked for the awards. They really worked on bringing people together to make this inner city school and the accessible infrastructure to ensure that more girls and people across classes and castes could find this a safe place. Right? And this neighborhood grew this school. And then, of course, Mr. Baburao, when he took over the leadership in the second. So I would say that Banshankarama was 1.0 of the school, the phase. 2.0 was Babu and Geeta when they ran the school. They earned their money from their mainstream jobs and put their own money into running the school without looking at returns.
Right? Absolutely.
And they did their bit till they hit their, age of transition. And now with you at the helm of affairs, along with your secretary Ujjwala of the society, as president secretary of the society, you have put in your effort.
Absolutely.
This is probably the vision 3.0, right?
Yeah.
To navigate the complex changes of this time.
Yeah.
Now, just because there were well-meaning people before you,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that automatically when you took over things were easy.
Right.
You also took over the helm of affairs at the school post-COVID, right? Which is
Yeah.
a very turbulent time.
Very, very difficult.
Very,
yeah.
very difficult.
Yeah.
With, government espousing support but not really delivering on the RTE and other facts.
Yeah.
I don't want to go into specific challenges.
But I do like to mention one thing is that, when we as an institution, right, we have to interact with the State Department, we have to interact with Income Tax Department, multiple departments. How can the government really, exactly like you said, look at school-specific charges, if I can call it, right? Like the BBMP tax, or it could be the income tax, or it could be any other tax, for example, right? So at the moment, they charge the same for a low-income private school and an international school, right? And that's depending on the size or whatever it is. So I think governments have to see how they can subsidize the cost based on how the school is earning and what kind of children they cater to, and create systems that can benefit schools like ours. So I just wanted to add that point.
So I think it's also important for us to see, are we talking enough with each other
Correct.
as affordable private schools, or
Correct.
are we feeling insecure that if we have a conversation, we are having a conversation with the competition?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think it's become more important than ever for us locally in a particular area in a 10-15 kilometer radius
To be
actually
more
have
connected.
conversations
Yeah.
with each other, to really understand what is it that we want from the government.
Correct.
And also to start having open dialogues with the education department,
Absolutely.
as well as, whether it's the registrar of society's interest, different stakeholders.
Absolutely.
Because all these affordable private schools 60, 70 years ago were done very quickly because everybody worked together.
Correct.
So I see no reason why we can't do this with the current government and bureaucracy.
Absolutely.
I think it's important for us to engage in conversation, do this bubble breaching, which has become very, very crucial for us.
Yeah.
I think it's important for us to work with hope
Yeah.
and not given to skepticism.
Yeah.
I think it's important for us to be optimistic.
Yeah.
Of course, we have to be pragmatic
Correct.
and do what it takes. But
Yes.
I
But
think
definitely
it's
be
important.
optimistic. Yeah.
I think it's important to see that finally life in India is like moving in Indian traffic. You have to move inch by inch.
Yeah.
You can't
But you have to
get
keep
to a
moving.
mile just
Yeah.
like that. So
Yeah.
if you want to reclaim the school space, which is the affordable school space, of being a space supported by community,
Right.
I think we as stakeholders, you inside the school and us outside the school, we need to join hands and bring more people to
Together,
interact with
yeah.
the school, into the school, whether it's children, teachers,
It could be
people
any
from the world of
stakeholders,
privilege,
yeah.
and get them in and make them understand that we don't want just their money. It's good if they can give their money, but we also want them to be involved.
Sure.
Because this is rebuilding the world.
Okay. I think you'll be a very good quiz master. Do you have any questions for me?
Yes, Sudhir. What keeps you going? What keeps you motivated?
What keeps me motivated?
Because
I think
it's so complex,
Yeah,
right? So when
yeah.
you say, hey, Shravan, thank you, you say thank you to a lot of us external stakeholders. It's like a soldier of the country coming and telling citizens, hey, thank you for supporting me. And we as citizens are thinking, okay, what did we do? We filed our taxes, we paid the taxes. You went and put your life, you and your team, whatever battalion you belong to, are putting
Right.
your life on hold, right? So the question is, you are doing so much as an individual, trying to keep your teachers motivated, trying to keep the school going, whereas the easiest thing for you is to fold up.
Yeah, would just like, yeah. So I think what keeps me motivated is that there are so many lives that I can impact, Shravan. I think, it's that thing of driving change, right? And how can I access my circle? How can I get all the benefits that I've got in my privileged life and pass that on to someone who, probably needs it more than me, right? I could have done a job, I could have, worked somewhere else and made the money that I want. But I think what keeps me motivated is that I want to drive change. And when I see these children so happy every single day when I come into the school and I'm like upset about something, I'm trying to figure something out, some sort of government call or whatever it is. I see these children, happily moving around, they're enjoying themselves. I think that's what keeps me motivated. And it's that our teachers have been, 20, 25 years working left, right, and center for these children. They're a source of motivation for me. And people like you, I think that every single time I speak to you about something, there is something that motivates me a little more. And I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to try this out. I think people like you should exist, and I think I want more of you for sure. These are the things, little things that sort of motivate me.
If you had to ask the universe for one big ask for Ashoka Shishu Vihar, and we know that there are people from different parts of the world, different walks of life who are probably going to watch this video, this conversation that we're having, and also future conversations. How would you want them to reach out to you, and what would you want them to help you with?
So I think, honestly, we'll need as much as community support as possible. And anyone who's willing to support us in any way they can come engage with us. And I'm available at the school all the time. Of course, we need money, we need infrastructure development, etc., etc. But I think, that will eventually fall in place. But we are looking for like-minded people. I'm looking for like-minded people to come and engage with us and grow the school together, because I've always wanted collective growth. So that's something that I really want from people who are watching this to do.
So on a closing note, Sudhir, for those of you who's watching this conversation,
right,
as Sudhir said, people support what they help create. So as part of looking at the future of Ashoka Shishu Vihar, what Sudhir wants is co-creators. So please feel free to reach out to Sudhir to see how you can help with the school, and every little thing that you can help with is a big help. So
absolutely, Shravan. Thank you very much for doing that. I think you're very kind and generous. Thank you.